For over 2,000 years, the Christian church has been under persecution. From the first Christian believers at Pentecost to the latest converts in Iraq or Beijing, Satan has attempted to stop the spread of the gospel in his strongholds of darkness. When Satan lost the battle at Calvary, all he could do was to wage war on the people that Christ died for. If he could bind them, bribe them, harass them, confuse them, or scare them from accepting the priceless gift of salvation, he could have a minor victory. His tactics haven't changed much over the centuries, but as we approach the end of this century, he knows that time is running out. I expect that we will see even more intense persecution of the church in the months and years ahead. One of the hotbeds of persecution today is China. Behind the bamboo curtain, there are over 1 billion souls, and the vast majority have never heard the good news of Jesus Christ. The church in China is under intense persecution, but it is growing much like the first century church. I persecuted Christians, hounding them to death, binding and delivering both men and women to prison. These words are from one of the most famous persecutors of the faith, Saul. Even today's leaders of China look tame when compared to Saul's intense persecution of Christians. I believe the letters of Paul provide us with great insights into what is now happening in China and what will happen as Paul's message is delivered through an army of brave new messengers sent by God.
All the while, my ambition has been to go still farther, preaching where the name of Christ has not yet been heard, rather than where the church has already been started by someone else. I have been following the plan spoken of in the scriptures where Isaiah says that those who have never heard the name of Christ before will see and understand.
1 out of every 3 non-Christians in the world now lives behind the Chinese bamboo curtain. The unsaved people of China represent a vast group, and the Chinese population is growing at a rate of approximately 45,000 souls a day. This is truly a land that Paul would place high on his list for a new missionary journey. With over 1 billion souls in one of the most ancient civilizations on earth, this is truly a land that needs to be set free from Satan's long stranglehold. China has been blinded by false religious beliefs from its earliest days. Over 1,500 years before Christ, there is documentation of Shang dynasty prayers to idols and ancestors. The false religions of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism grew for years. Then, in 1921, the Communist Party began in China, and by 1949 it took over all of China and began to increase persecution against Christians. The official religion became atheism, and Christian churches were closed. Leaders were arrested, and Bibles were destroyed. Some even lost their lives for their faith. Today, the communists are still in power, even though the world cried out at the events that took place in Tiananmen Square during June 1989. Today, Christians still have to carefully conduct church services in homes and be prepared to face persecution. Church leaders continue to be arrested as the old men now ruling China are frightened by the growth of the church, in spite of all their efforts to stamp it out. One of the many persecuted Christians is Pastor Lam. Twice he was thrown into prison, once for 20 years. He has seen all forms of persecution, but he also has seen God do amazing things.
Before I went into prison, our audience, every week, not more than 400, only one time. After I came out from prison, up to 900 3 times. 1990, 3 years ago, they closed our church, confiscated many things away. Before confiscation, we have 900. After confiscation, now we have 11 to 1200. You see, the more persecution, the church grow. And the government asked me, "You preach again?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, we closed the church." I said, "You had closed, but they come back again." "You called them not to come." I said, "You had called them not to come, but they come." "Oh, you must be careful." I said, I'm ready for the third time. Because I've been twice in prison. I said, I'm ready for the third time. Praise the Lord. And within these few years, people crowded and crowded. Tonight, you see many young people. 80% are young people. One house church in Luoyang, in central China. They had a house church in the countryside, about 300 people. One time, the policemen round their house church. After that, they went in and gave him a paper, called them not to have your assembling in this house. You may go to the church. That's the, do you know what, the official church. And call them to sign and fingerprint. Do you know fingerprint? Many people sign their names and fingerprint. At last, 5. Don't sign. Don't fingerprint. And then they threw them to a truck and called them to the government hall. They beat them. But 5 of them, they said, no pain. But the hands of the policemen firing, very hot. And they take a basin of water and put the hands in the basin and beat them again. No pain, but very hot in the basin to beat again. Then they took the electric probe, sparkling, but no hurt. Then perhaps this is not no use. Another one, sparkling, no hurt. Oh, at last they said, you go back. Call the 5, go back. And the head of the policeman believed Jesus.